Consult an advisor or conduct your own due diligence when making financial decisions. General principles discussed during this program do not constitute personal advice. This program is furnished by Dentist Advisors, a registered investment advisor. This is Dentist Money. Now, here's your host, Reese Harper.
Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Reese Harper, on the Dentist Money Show, where we help dentists make smart financial decisions. Here with my co-host, Sir Ryan Isaac.
Reese, I got a story for you.
Okay. Like this?
You like where this is going. There's a guy named Takiro Kobayashi. They call him Kobe, a Japanese guy. He's a competitive eater. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Never.
I just heard of Kobe right now.
You've heard of Kobayashi.
I know Kobe, but they're not doing real well.
What do you think of when you think of a competitive eater? Like, what does the guy look like?
Huge, man.
Okay.
But friendly, though.
Okay, but
not the stereotype.
So if I told you, like, 5'8", 190-pound Japanese guy, would you say world record holder?
Definitely not.
Okay. So there's this guy named Kobe. This is the story. This guy named Kobe Kobayashi. He's a world record holder. Some of his stats: 62 slices of pizza in 12 minutes.
Thin crust?
I don't know. Probably not. 337 wings in 30 minutes.
Dang.
130 soft tacos.
I could never even come
like
close to that
high
many
school in
wings.
Taco Bell.
I'm dead at like 24.
Okay, here's the interesting thing about Kobe, though. He starts out in Japan in his 30s. His friend sets him up on a TV show. It's kind of like a dare. Like, I'm going to put you on the show and you're going to go eat. There's 4 stages, 4 rounds, right? And there's seafood, boiled potatoes. An Idaho guy, he'd probably be able to do that. There's Mongolian barbecue, there's some noodles. So instead of just going on there, he's an average sized guy. He had the same thought you did. I'm not that big. How am I going to win? So he goes and he studies previous contests. And he starts watching how fast people drop off, the time in the rounds, how fast they start versus how they finish. And so he figures out that all he has to do from this studying is that he just has to go. He knows exactly how much he has to eat per round to make it to the 4th. And then he gets to the 4th and destroys everyone. That's his amateur career. Then he goes pro, and when you go pro in eating, you go to the Coney Island hot dog eating Nathan's famous.
Oh, the Nathan's dogs, dude. Okay. Those are all beef kosher.
So this is like 10 years ago. He goes there, but before he goes there, so he's pro now. The fascinating thing is that he spends months and months videotaping himself eating hot dogs, like all day long. Mm-hmm. And so he starts out by experimenting with ripping a part of the bun off, and he'll eat the rest of the hot dog, and that didn't work. And then he starts by separating the dog first, then the bun, but the dry bun's it's hard, then you got to drink water, and it's still hard. After a while, he gets this thing down. He's charting the stuff. He's building spreadsheets. He's videotaping and watching tape, right? He figures out that if he takes the dog, breaks it in half, keeps it in one hand, takes the bun, dips the bun in some water, squeezes it out, then downs the dog, downs the bun, and then just repeats that. He can go really, really fast, and he doesn't have to stop for drinks of water. So he goes to Coney Island. It's his first. He's an amateur. Everyone's like, who's this Kobayashi guy? Because there's other guy named Joey Chestnut, by the way, you probably heard of, right? Oh. Joey Chestnut, no?
I have no idea.
Joey Chestnut fans out there. No. He's a big eater. Kobe goes to Coney Island, 4th of July. The previous world record, what would you guess? I mean, this is kind of fun.
Like what he got?
No. Previous world record. By the way, 40-year world record of hot dogs.
Well, my kids eat half of one dog.
Okay.
They only eat the bun.
Okay.
And so my little girl just licks the ketchup off right now. So I'm going to go with like 20.
Yeah, 25.
18.
Okay, 25, and it's a 12-minute time cap. 25 minutes, 40-year record, or 12 minutes, 40-year record, it's 25 dogs. This guy goes in 12 minutes, eats 50 hot dogs. And the stories are like people were just quitting. People were on their 7th and 8th hot dog. He's on 30 and 35, and they just quit. And they're like, who's this guy?
Well played.
And the fascinating thing about that is that it was more than just a guy that could just eat a lot of food, and he just practiced eating by eating a lot. He tracked data. He charted how many hot dogs, and he had a chart for how strong and fast he would actually chew. And he knew that if he chewed too vigorously, he couldn't keep up. So he had a vigorous chewing chart.
You had the old TMJ, be all tired out, huh?
Yeah. You get that fixed. So I picked this story because it was fascinating to see such an unrelated subject. And this guy's trying to win at hot dog eating, and he does it by stats, and he does it by tracking, and he does it by numbers. And the only way he even got to the point where he was, and by the way, then he set the new benchmark. Now everyone does this stuff. No one ever did this stuff before. And it was just because he paid attention to data over time. He saw as, more important than just trying to put more food in his stomach. When that happened, everyone would always expect, like, maybe this is the year that someone does 26 or 28. Maybe they go just a little bit more. No one had any idea that, of course, that it was even possible, because no one ever thought about it like that. They never thought about it in steps and in data and in tracking. And because he just viewed it like a sport, something that you could improve at incrementally if you knew where you were and you knew where you're going, then I mean, it was completely different after that. So that's why I picked the story. I'm sure you're a smart guy. You can read the connection here where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that kind of the parallel that I'm seeing is
well, what are we talking about first today? Maybe we should mention that. Why does hot dog eating have anything to do with dentists, and why would you approve this message? I am Ryan Isaac, and I approve this message. Why would I approve this message?
Yeah, I mean, I said let's talk about some level. I wanted to kind of focus on spending, like the number, the precision that someone takes in and tracks what they actually consume prior to retirement, and mostly because we keep having these experiences with people that hit 65, 67, and they've really never measured their overall finances, but especially they've never measured how much they actually consume each month.
And you're talking about personal
spending, yeah. And when you look at how big of a difference, $500 a month makes, if you sit down with a financial advisor, typically they're going to say, how much do you spend? Because that's what I'm going to base your retirement plan off of. And usually you give some kind of an estimate because you usually have a pretty good idea. I mean, you're not clueless to what you spend on food, groceries, housing, cars, kids, grandkids, whatever. But it's usually it's a guess. And there was a study that we just recently wrote about or cited in an e-guide we put together that Chase Bank did. I think I have to go look. You'll go and download the study from our website. But to me, I think it was 35%, somewhere between 30 and 35% was the variance that people reported on their personal spending. So if you say someone spends $10,000 a month, they really spent somewhere between $7,500 and $13,500, or $6,500 to $13,500. That was the variance, and they didn't really know their actual number. But $500 a month in spending difference creates hundreds of thousands of dollars more required for a nest egg. Where if you're really off by 30 to 35%, you could be off by $1 million or more on what you think you need for your retirement nest egg. So that's a long way of getting around it. I think your story is basically highlighting the importance of how tracking and quantifying personal finance is much more important than like conceptual stuff.
I think, you mentioned, kind of just backing up, you mentioned something that when I asked what is the problem, we said, it's people don't track their spending. They don't know what they spend at home closely enough. And then you said that when a financial advisor asks you what you need for retirement, it's based on, well, how much do you spend? I might argue that a little bit, because it seems like whenever I read articles about, you see the link or the title of the article, it's how much do you need for retirement? How much should you save? It's usually based on income, which I think for dentists we know that statistically they're in one of the highest income categories in the whole country, statistically. What, top 10%?
Yeah.
Okay. So replacing an entire dentist income, especially for some of the higher income specialists or just big practices, that's not as much of a priority, right? But it seems like to me, whenever I read articles on this stuff, that people are always just talking about replacing income. So when you say that the big problem is that an advisor is going to ask, well, what do you spend? I don't even know if they're doing that. I don't know if people are even thinking about that, which is the second problem. When they finally
that's probably true. They probably don't ask, what do you spend? I guess a better way for me to phrase that is they'll say, how much do you think you need?
Yeah.
Right. How much do you think you need?
Right.
And I think it's the wrong way to go about preparing for retirement by making some assumption on what you think you might. The lifestyle you envision is not the reality of how it's going to play out. You're going to spend money similar to how you've spent it, and that you're not going to vary dramatically from how you've spent money in the past. And we've written a lot about that, and I think that's probably a better way of phrasing it. Yeah, they're not going to, usually they don't actually dive into that.
Yeah, I just don't see it when I read articles about that stuff. Yeah. Okay, so I've got a few questions then that I'll just ask you about spending. And you can just impart some wisdom if you want to talk about food.
Yes.
And hot dogs too. Feel free.
The Nathan's thing got me distracted a bit.
It's fair. I will bring up.
Go Utes.
Maybe this is a sponsorship.
All right, go kids.
Opportunity. I was just thinking that you are kind of a pizza and root beer connoisseur. Is that fair to say? It's fair.
It's fair.
Okay. All right.
It's fair.
Okay.
Glass bottle.
So one of the first questions about tracking spending we hear a lot, and that we get from dentists is how should you track it? The question is, why is tracking spending over a period of time? How long should that period of time be? How long until you have like a trend in spending? Is it like what happened in a week or a year, a couple years? And how are you supposed to look at that?
I think it's got to be, for me, I wouldn't want to retire without having tracked it for at least 4 years. Typically, in my experience, major vacations and major spending doesn't always happen every calendar year. It's usually every other calendar year. You might want to go at a minimum of up to 6 years. The point is that you could go for a 6 to 9 month period tracking your spending and have that really not be a true reflection of your lifestyle. Some people pay cash for cars, which those loans range from 4 to 6 years. So sometimes they won't really experience. They'll say I spend $9,000 a month, or they'll think they spend $9,000 a month, and then they've got a $60,000 car, and then that's
like, oh yeah, that happened once.
Yeah,
but it's not frequent, so it doesn't count.
Cars are going to be a steady expense every month, and so I think you need enough time to average in the large, infrequent purchases or vacations or lifestyle expenses that only occur, as frequent as they do.
Okay, so you're bringing up a good question. That was actually another one that I was going to get to. What do you track and what do you not track in personal spending?
Okay, well, that can be confusing for dentists, especially because sometimes your accounting's not set up super clean, so you're spending stuff personally out of the business.
So step one, don't go to the grocery or go buy some pizza or hot dogs on the business Amex. On the corporate card, which you never do. I never do that.
Nope. I try not to. Okay.
It never happens. Step one, don't do that. Don't mix them. Don't mix business.
It'll make your CPA's life a lot easier.
It will. But so if you're mixing them, is it hard to just get it clean and separated?
Yeah, you gotta. I think it's tough to clean it up, but it's not too hard. You just need to make sure you have. It's not. The reason people do it is because it's not motivating to split them up until you realize that it's convoluting your actual financial future. It's one thing because you feel like there's a tax benefit from spending as much as you can out of the business. So most people just grab that card and they just keep rocking it.
That thing.
But what you're doing is you're convoluting your ability to project your retirement by mixing your bags. And so it gets motivating when you say, hey, if I track spending out of this one account through an app or whatever, it's going to be easy because I know I'm only spending personally out of there.
Right. Okay, so separate it.
But I don't know your question now.
Yeah, we've gotten past that. Now the question is, what do you track and what do you not track in personal spending?
Okay, so not track. Personal spending includes, obviously, mortgage and rent, kids, shopping, vacations, all the stuff that, the stuff that's intuitive. But I think one of the things you don't, that kind of get where it gets tricky is, deposits that you're putting into like IRAs or contributions to kids' college, any transfers that are going out of your account. Some people have charitable contributions that vary quite a bit based on how much they earn. And so you don't want to really track things that won't be occurring in the future. So a lot of people will say, well, then my mortgage and rent's going to disappear. And my argument to that is typically that housing costs.
How many retirees do you see just getting a new mortgage?
Yeah, they do, or they spend, or they remodel, or they spend large amounts of money on improvements, and so it doesn't. Your housing costs don't dramatically decline. There's a reason mortgages are stretched over a 30-year period. That's about when the house is worthless. Yeah, and so you want to make sure that at that point, that you keep your housing costs kind of similar and assume that they're going to be there to some degree. And a lot of people might disagree with that, but I just seen it in practice. That's the benefit of actually seeing the data. I'm just telling you from my experience, people don't reduce their housing costs dramatically.
You videotaped the hot dogs. You know what this actually looks like in practice.
Spreadsheeted it.
So this might be easier to ask. What do you not track? And you're saying don't track savings because in the when you're retired, you're not going to be putting away savings, and maybe you will. But don't worry about tracking that. Yeah. If you're paying extra on any loans, don't track that. Nope. Just track the minimum balance of the loans. Mm-hmm. You're saving for kids' college. Now
loans, business loans, no expenses like that are really personal spending.
Right. Yeah.
And
so
student
if you have a practice
loans,
loan and you're paying for a CEREC or something, don't
Yeah,
count
that doesn't count spending.
Or your building.
Yeah, but those expenses shouldn't be happening on your personal checking account anyway. But just
That was
keep
a trick
in mind.
question. See,
Yeah,
that was
trick
going back.
question.
Yeah, that was a trick question. You caught
So,
it. Okay.
But your student loan probably isn't a number that you'd need to keep track of as your actual spending. If you want to track that, that's fine because it'll just leave you a little bit of a hedge.
I would say yes.
Go ahead.
I like it.
Okay.
I like tracking it.
Okay.
At least for now. You could be honest and say this won't be there in the future. For sure, my student loan will be gone in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe my housing costs won't be my student loan, but I like to know what it is.
Yeah.
Still like to know.
Yeah, the total number, it probably doesn't hurt to keep your... What we're trying to say is spend what you spend today averaged over the last 3 to 6 years is probably what you're going to be spending. Now,
Yeah.
don't do a spending projection in your 30s out to your 60s and use inflation, and just get in the habit of tracking it all the time. You can connect to a simple app. I mean, I don't know, you can connect your accounts to track this, and if you're looking at your real-time spending at any given point in your life, it's going to slightly decline as you age. After, if you have kids and you're raising kids, it's an expensive part of life, and that's why in your spending it's nice to allocate for that. Like in my personal budget, anything that has to do with my kids, I put it in the same category. Kids are all in the same.
You're just mad at that category. Like, you
Yeah,
guys
it's a category
eat too
of
much food.
kids, you know. But that's where I see a lot of fluctuation. But
Yeah.
everything else doesn't change a ton.
Okay.
But if you that's kind of maybe a...
We'll recap some of these too.
Okay.
But we'll just keep going. You brought up another point I think is a good segue about being accurate. A lot of people ballpark that stuff. You know, I'll ask, and well, I spent about $2,500 for the mortgage, and I don't know, like $500 for the cars, and maybe $1,000 for food. What's wrong with ballparking those things? Why does it have to be to the penny? That seems annoying.
Well, like
it really annoys people, and it annoys me to be like, I gotta know this to the penny. That's annoying.
Yeah, well, like I was saying at the beginning, you know, like your retirement projection, if you're trying to do an accurate retirement projection, it really is based on how much you need per month, and a fluctuation in $500 a month affects your nest egg.
How do you mean that? Because that's a huge point. If you're short by $500 a month, you're spending $500 more than you think you are. Why does that make it so you have to save up so much more for retirement?
Well, when you hit retirement, you need a certain amount of money to kick off that monthly expense that you consume. You know, you're spending every month. You got to have
spend $10,000 and you're spending $10,500 in reality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then that $500 extra that you are withdrawing from your accounts that you didn't think you were, in order to keep your accounts in one piece and not have them just implode and decline too quickly, you know, $500 a month really is the equivalent of almost, you know, depending on, you know, your income, it could be $200,000 or more extra that you might need.
It is actually. If you said that your withdrawal rate was about 3%, $6,000 a year, $500 a month is an extra $200,000 that you'd be short.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It could be millions if you're off by
a few thousand.
Thousands.
And is it common that a dentist is off by a few thousand a month in his spending?
He's off by 30 to 35%, right?
Yeah,
I mean, similar to that
statistically, that's what it
study,
is.
you know, and I've seen that. It just happens, and I'm like, somebody tells me they're spending $20,000 a month, they're spending
24.
25, 26, 27 if they spend, you know, and usually the lower the number, it's not necessarily whatever you spend, you know, it's all relative. So you're gonna you spend a percentage of your income generally, and the more you make, the more you're gonna spend. But the variance in what you think you spend is usually similar.
So if someone's hearing this though and they're thinking, "Oh, that's totally me. I have the big." Are they the anomaly and they're just the worst dentist in the world? And it's like it's over. They have no hope.
Yes. just
turn it
feel
off. Right? Just
bad.
stop. Just
no. You're
Go-
good people out there.
That's
I have that problem.
Everyone, it's a problem most people have.
I mean, I don't have it anymore because I've been tracking this for too long now.
You track how much you sleep.
I know the variance, standard deviation in my spending for the last 6 years.
Okay, so we've said separate business and personal. We've said use something concrete. There's so many apps. We're not even going to get into apps, but there's so many apps and software and free websites you can use. We use software it's like practice management software for financial advisors. So it's like our Dentrix or EagleSoft Love.
Mm-hmm.
Give some EagleSoft love.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess.
We love it
There's a
all.
few guys out there.
We don't have a
Don't be a
preference.
hater, dude.
I'm not a hater.
We are objective.
I'm very objective
Hey,
and
geez.
practice software agnostic. Okay.
Are you getting paid under the table by somebody?
I'm
here,
not saying. I'm not
Jeez.
doing this for free. Yeah. So okay. What about there's this whole like accountability part to it. And you and I've talked when we were talking about this podcast specifically. You know, we talked about it's just the emotional tendency, and you were saying this before when you started. It's the emotional tendency to discount certain things.
Yeah.
Right. To say, well, this month was right on track with what I thought, except for that, you know, I went to Costco and they had the TV, and then I got some tires, and I bought a casket there, and a lot more, you know. But that was an anomaly, you know. It was an anomaly, and that tends to happen. I mean, it's human nature. We'll discount things.
Yeah.
How does accountability play into this? And is it really about babysitting? I think that's what people really want to know about spending is someone just going to be babysitting me and yelling at me every time I go over? Am I being micromanaged in my babysitting?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some level we believe in accountability because that's kind of how we built our careers. I mean, if you look at the inherent value of a financial advisor, it's someone who knows you well enough to call you when you're maybe not being totally honest with yourself.
Sure.
Whether it has to do with anything you want to do with your money, someone's going to know you well enough to say, are you sure that's the right thing? You know,
which is another episode on which financial advisor you should probably choose. Okay.
That's a different question. Okay. Now, I think accountability from someone, whether it's someone in your family, it could be a spouse, it could be a friend. I would use someone probably outside your family. But you want someone who can ultimately look at your spending over the last 3 to 5 years and kind of analyze it with you and just make sure that you're on track, because it's super it's like the most private thing anyone has. It's like the whole you don't let anyone touch that part of your life, right? You don't tell anyone how much you spend, and number isn't something you share.
Sacred. Yeah.
And consequently, you don't really look at it a lot either, and it tends to inflate. And I just think it's helpful to have somebody say, hey, did you know what? You used to spend 22% of your income, and now you spend 40%, and you're in the same house, and you're making the same amount of money.
What's going on?
And you have the same amount of kids, and you're spending a lot more. And I, at some level, accountability does help people in any area of life, tracking numbers and staying true to statistics. Any coach will tell you that, you know.
In another podcast, I think there's an even better way to make sure you're not overspending. It has to do with savings rate, but that's the teaser. That's how you do it, right? You leave a little bit of a teaser, so people are like, I'm gonna download the next one. Okay, so let's wrap it up. Let's summarize then. Why should a dentist track his personal spending?
Primarily, you track your personal spending because you'll have no idea when you can retire or how much you're gonna need unless you have a really clear, specific number on what you're gonna actually withdraw.
Okay.
And that's not just based on a guess. It's not an assumption. It's what you actually did over the last 5 years on average. And you want to just build your portfolio to be the size that it needs to be to support that number and not change your spending. Just like changing your eating habits at retirement. Dude, I drink pizza and I eat root beer, and I'll do it either way. I can eat pizza, drink root beer. I will drink pizza and eat root beer. I don't care how it happens.
No, it's true.
If I'm 65, I guarantee you I'm still going to be tapping that glass bottle. Right. Okay. And I'm going to be ordering a late night one.
It's fine.
I can't tell myself at this point that I'm going to stop eating pizza because I know that's not true, because I like a thin crust. So here's the deal. You get to 65. If you've been spending a certain way, you're not going to change in 2 years. And if you do, it'll be short-lived.
Unless you're forced to. No one's gonna reduce their lifestyle, their comfort level, unless they're forced to. And even then,
it's very difficult. Usually, they'll just end up going back to work.
Yes.
Because they don't really want to change the things that they're used to. And so all I'm doing is saying, maybe I'm being a little harsh, but I do think there's some wisdom in saying I'm probably not going to change how I spend dramatically.
Too much. Statistically, that's true.
It's but over time, you can. Over time, but you've got to prove to yourself you've done it for 2 or 3 years consistently.
All right, well, let's wrap up with best pizza. I mean, since we started by talking about food, let's end by talking about food. Lately, that's too hard. I can see the look on your face.
I ordered a Williams-Sonoma little red, it's a little cooker for my kitchen.
Okay.
And I'm buying this pizza dough from Trader Joe's downtown, and I'm cooking it myself. Organic marinara sauce with some basil, a little bit of mozzarella.
Gluten-free?
No way.
Okay. All right.
If I had to, it would be.
I don't even know what that means. It's just that's what I think you're supposed to ask.
I really am trying to be low gluten, but I'm struggling right now.
Okay. All right.
But to anyone out there who is, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just saying it's hard to eat pizza gluten-free. It just ends up being a little chewy.
Okay.
It's soft.
All right. Well, I think that covers it.
Thanks for tuning in today, everybody. When you have more questions, go to the dentistadvisors.com website. And it's just dentistadvisors.com, just
Pretty
like it
easy.
sounds.
Yeah, just like it sounds.
You can sign up for our newsletter, get a series of e-guides and emails that kind of go over some of our methodology a little bit more.
Yep. And if you've got more questions, there's a link at the top of the website. Again, it's dentistadvisors.com. Click the link at the top. You can schedule a free phone call with one of our advisors at your convenience. It'll put it on our calendar, and we'd be happy to chat with you.
Have a good week.
Thanks.